Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you may be in the world, and welcome to the second edition of the Who Review. And the second edition obviously means that we will be looking at the second episode of the first series of Doctor Who, which is The End of the World. Now, The End of the World was written by showrunner and executive producer Russell T Davies, and it's our first trip into the future in the Revive series. Following on from the events of Rose, which was the first episode of the Revive series, we see the Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, played by Christopher Eccleston, take Rose into the far future, and it's about 5 billion years into the future, and we basically see the end of the world. It basically does what it says on the tin. And this episode is a pretty good introduction to the time travel element of the show and the kind of the science fiction element of the show, because it's that classic scenario. When will the end of the world be? What does the end of the world look like? When will it be? And it's really good because it introduces new viewers to the show pretty well. I remember watching it back in 2005, and it being quite easy to understand. So it's got quite a simple plot. The Doctor and Rose land the TARDIS on Platform 1, which is this big space station that is orbiting the Earth, and loads of guests have arrived onto Platform 1 to watch the end of the world. And it's kind of a bit of a satire on sort of corporate events in a way, because all of these people that have arrived have actually sponsored the end of the world. So it's quite a sort of cynical way of looking at the end of the world, but it's quite funny because you see all these different aliens and different life forms, and that's kind of another element of the show, all these different aliens and monsters, and it's quite nice to see, and it's got quite a basic plot. Everyone's on Platform 1, but of course, as with anything in Doctor Who, nothing is as it seems, and there's sabotage on board the platform as someone is killing off all the guests, and there are these mysterious metal spiders that are walking about the corridors. So it's quite a nice episode, and it's an important episode as well because it shows us how Rose can trust the Doctor, because at the end of the first episode, Rose, she just goes off with the Doctor, and she doesn't really know who he is. He's a complete stranger, but in this episode we get to see, how she can trust him, and basically when she's not at home, there are so many dangers out there, and the Doctor's the only one that can protect her really. So it's important. It develops a bit of their relationship a bit. You get to know Rose a bit more, because she kind of finds it quite difficult to deal with the destruction of her own planet, far in the future, and she sees all these monsters, and there's the last human there, which is the Lady Cassandra, played by Zoe Wanamaker, who is just this flat sheet of skin. She's had so many operations that she hasn't got any organs or anything anymore. She's just a flat sheet of skin, and she finds it difficult to cope with this woman who's very arrogant, and she can't understand how she's the last human. Really, she almost feels like she doesn't deserve to be. Rose feels herself that she's the last human, and so it's quite an interesting episode. Again, it's, as I said, it's got quite a basic story, quite easy to understand. So I'd probably give it about 3 stars out of 5, a bit like the previous episode. It's a good introduction to the show, and it's easy for viewers to understand, really. And it's also notable for the first appearance of the Face of Boe, which is a recurring character that will appear in future episodes and future series, and will eventually have great significance in the show. Now, if you've watched Doctor Who before, you will know exactly what I mean, but if you haven't, then I'm sure you will find out when you start watching it, which you really must do, okay? So, that's been my review of The End of the World. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Please comment your thoughts. Please subscribe to me. I've only got 1 subscriber at the moment, but please, I want to get out to more viewers, and I hope that you did enjoy this review. Next up will be my review of The Unquiet Dead. which is our first look into the past, and it's a good classic ghost story, but I will leave that for another time. But for now, farewell.